Hey everyone, if you're learning English, you've probably hit this wall, right? You've got two verbs back to back, and you're thinking, what do I do? Do I use the ing form, or do I stick a to in front of it? It seems like a tiny thing, but trust me, getting this right is a huge step towards sounding like a native speaker. So today, we're going to crack this code together.
Okay, let's just jump right in with an example. She enjoys, what do you think? To paint or painting? One of these is right, the other one, not so much. By the time we're done here, you're going to know exactly which one it is, and more importantly, why. Let's get into it.
So here's the fundamental rule, the big idea for today. In English, when you have one verb following another, you can't just smash them together. Nope. The second verb has to change its shape. It either becomes a gerund, which is just that ing form, or an infinitive, the to plus the verb. And here's the secret sauce, the part you really need to remember. It's the first verb that calls all the shots. It decides which form the second verb takes.
All right, first up, let's talk about the gerund. I love this description. Think of it like a verb wearing a disguise. It's kind of moonlighting as a noun. So it looks like an action, it feels like an action, but in the sentence, it's actually working as a thing.
So, what's the textbook definition? Super simple. It's a verb that ends in ing, but it's used like a noun. Words like running, thinking, reading, these can be things you do, sure, but they can also be the idea of the action itself, the subject of a sentence. It's like you're giving the activity a name.
Okay, now this is where it gets cool. This slide shows you the gerund's superpower. It's double life. Look at the first one. Swimming is fun. Here, swimming is the subject, right? It's the thing we're talking about. But then look at I like speaking Basque. Speaking is the object of like, so it's a noun. But wait, it's also acting like a verb because it has its own object. Basque! How cool is that? It's a noun and a verb all at once.
So here's the deal. Some verbs are just picky. They're like a bouncer at a fancy club who only lets certain people in. In this case, they only allow gerunds to follow them. There's no real why to it, you just kind of have to learn the guest lists. Let's look at a few of these VIP verbs in action.
Let's start with avoid. You always avoid doing something, right? You avoid arguing. You would never ever say, I tried to avoid to argue. It hurts the ears of a native speaker. It's an absolute rule. Avoid demands a gerund. Or how about this one? Dread. When you really, really don't want to do something. So if your buddy hates working out, you'd say, he dreads going to the gym. You wouldn't say, he dreads to go. Nope. The pattern is the same. Dread is on that bouncer's list.
And here's one you probably use all the time. Miss. Think about it. When you're away from people you care about, you don't say, I miss to see my friends. You say, I miss seeing my friends. It's always miss plus the ing form. It's just how it works.
Okay, so here it is, part 1 of your grammar toolkit. This is your cheat sheet for verbs that always take a gerund. And look, these are super common words we use every day, like enjoy, finish, mind, suggest. Go ahead and pause here, take a screenshot, whatever you need to do. This list is your new best friend.
All right, so that's the gerund team. Now let's switch gears and talk about the other side of the coin, the infinitive.
The infinitive is probably what you think of as the default verb, right? It's just to plus the verb. To run, to eat, to think. And just like gerunds, these guys can follow another verb. A really helpful way to think about infinitives is that they often point towards the future, like a goal, a plan, or something that could happen.
Check out this example. Jackie decided what? She decided to work. The verb decide is always followed by an infinitive. You would never say she decided working. It's a set-in-stone rule. And see how that fits our little tip. To work is her plan for the future. Here's another one. After the verb threaten, it has to be an infinitive. She threatened to quit. The rule here is just as strict as it was for those gerund-only verbs, no exceptions.
And boom, here's the second part of your toolkit. This is the list for team infinitive. These are the verbs that have a different bouncer at the door, one that only lets in the to form. Again, look how common these are. Agree, hope, plan, promise, want. You use these all the time. So this is the other half of your cheat sheet. Definitely take a moment to look these over.
Okay, so far so good, right? We have verbs that like gerunds, we have verbs that like infinitives. It seems simple enough. But now we get to the really tricky part. There's a small, special group of verbs that are flexible. They can take either a gerund or an infinitive. But And this is a huge but. The meaning completely flips depending on which one you pick. This is where you've really got to pay attention. We're moving beyond just correct grammar and into clear communication. If you mix these up, you could say something you totally don't mean. Let's look at the 3 most common troublemakers.
First step, stop. Okay, listen to these 2 sentences. I stopped to call you. What does that mean? It means I was maybe walking down the street and I paused my walking in order to make a call. The call is the purpose of stopping. Now, what if I say, I stopped calling you? Whoa, totally different vibe. That means the activity of calling you is finished, over, done. Maybe we're not friends anymore. See how massive that difference is?
Remember is just as tricky. If you say, she remembered to visit her grandmother, that means she didn't forget a task. It was on her mental to-do list and she checked it off. But if you say, she remembered visiting her grandmother, now you're talking about a memory from the past. She's thinking back on the experience. So one is about a future task, the other is about a past memory, a chore versus a cherished moment.
And of course, forget is the exact opposite of remember. I forgot to meet him, that means the meeting didn't happen. The planned action failed. Whoops. But if you say, I forgot meeting him, that means you did meet him, but now you have absolutely no memory of it. It's completely wiped from your brain. So a failed task versus a missing memory. Super important distinction.
And that's the whole shebang. Verbs that need gerunds, verbs that need infinitives, and that special bunch that changes everything. Seriously, getting a handle on this stuff is a game changer. It's one of those things that will make your English sound so much more natural, so much more precise. It's a big deal.
Okay, you ready for a quick pop quiz? Let's see if it's all sinking in. Here's the sentence. She promised blank smoking. And the verb we're using is stop. So what do you think? Which form goes in that blank? Think back. Which list was the verb promise on?
And the answer is to stop. She promised to stop smoking. Why? Because promise is always followed by an infinitive. If you got that one right, give yourself a pat on the back. You're definitely getting the hang of this.
So you are now officially equipped with the gerund and infinitive toolkit. And remember, it's more than just memorizing lists, right? It's about getting the feel for the language, understanding the difference between a real, concrete action and a potential future idea. So my final question for you is this. Which one of these patterns are you going to focus on practicing this week to really level up your English? Thanks so much for tuning in.